And there we are. Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to today's episode of Theory Forge Friday, episode 18 here. New year, new hosts. And to get us started, we're going to be passing this up over to Sog, who's going to be running the things for tonight. So, Sog, hello, and Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy Year.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're supposed to have Poro here. We don't know where she disappeared to in the last hour, but she is one of our new regular hosts that we're going to be having here, as well as we have two of them with us today, Noodle Cat and Diggs. So, Noodle Cat, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I am the Noodle Cat. Most of you guys know me from building and Landmark and stuff. I've branched out to now being a little bit more of an adventurer, actually. And used to stream all the time. Right now, I can't because I'm working many, many hours doing tech support and customer service. So, that's about it for me for Landmark. So,
And Diggs, how about you?
You'll find me usually in the forums, sometimes on Twitter, especially if I'm playing. I'll tweet out a couple of little fun photos or something like that. But mostly hanging out in the forums, and now that we've got PvE, having fun battling monsters in Landmark.
Yeah, it's good to have both of you. Welcome to the team here, and we have some of our long-standing regular hosts here. Legendary Neurotoxin, the owner of the current channel, he has been on this show, I believe, every single time we've run it. Have we had a week without you on, Neuro?
Yeah, I really don't think I've missed one yet. A lot of them I ended up hosting when things kind of got a little bit weird with people's internet and stuff, and then I just kind of ended up being on all of them. But that's fine. Last year was the year for me to be on like every episode of everything. I literally streamed over 1,000 hours last year, no joke. So I'm willing to start kind of laying back on that a little bit this year. I've got a little bit of other things going. It isn't. I'm not going for my primary source of income to be the streaming thing anymore. So, yeah, I'm actually going to start maybe not being on the camera for future episodes.
And Phantom X, you've been waiting for something other than building for a long time. How are you doing today?
Oh, you are frozen and muted.
I cannot hear him.
Yeah, my internet is on that. I live in the country. I have to run off a 4G signal. It sucks sometimes. Yeah, just trying to test things out. I'm more and more wanting next. I won't lie, but Landmark serves its purpose for now. So it's hard to do some of this without a real context behind it, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that later. But for the moment, sorry, I'm looping back through.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah. So we got a bunch of new features. We haven't really spent a lot of time talking about them. PvE combat is really in Landmark now, and we have a much more fleshed out progression system. Noodle Cat, what are your first impressions of these aspects of the game? We've had a couple weeks to play with them. How do you feel about it? You say you're more into adventuring now. Why is that?
I like the combat style a lot. I know a lot of people are on the fence or like one or the other between tab targeting and I don't want to say first-person shooter because it's really not first-person shooter, but targeted style like that. I like the challenge of it. There's a lot of bugs and things that need to be fixed and ironed out, and it doesn't flow as well as I'd like it to right now, but it is definitely fun. And I like that it's not tiered like a traditional MMO is. So, I can go down and kill things in level 5 because I have the skills to kill the stuff on my own. But it's not based solely on my armor, because frankly, I sleep through my raids in WoW. So, like, I've legitimately completely slept through a raid and just went on autopilot. And you can't go on autopilot in Landmark right now, and I like that a lot. So that's the most exciting thing for me about the new stuff. Other than the emitters. I love the emitters too, even though I can't find them.
Oh god, I should start. Yeah.
You just gotta kill to get those emitters.
I know, but I opened 30 chests and got 4.
Yeah, that's why you gotta kill to get them, not open chests. I get a lot of them off just little crap wisps on the surface.
Yeah.
I get, actually,
That's
emitters
true.
and Boots of the Zephyr, I get the most of them off of surface wisps.
Huh, I got my Boots of the Zephyr from a wisp. Okay, cool.
Like, literally, the first thing I killed when the servers came up with the new content, I kill a wisp, Boots of the Zephyr. It's like, well, damn, that was really easy.
No more cave diving for them.
Plus, Baby Cannon
So-
has like a horde of them, and she's just giving them out if anyone needs them.
I think lots of people have them. I got a bunch of them, and I haven't been playing that much. But Diggs, what are your thoughts on the new adventuring and gear progression stuff going on?
Ooh, gear person. Well, the PvE, I just love going out and killing mobs for the most part. I have been mostly using the Dragonbone bow, and enjoying staying ranged. And if I can't be far enough away in the caves, then I pull out my pulverizer and pulverize until I have a straight line to hit without being hit back. And I love that in terms of, I mean, it makes me feel like a hunter. Makes me almost kind of like I'm back in the days of pen and paper D&D, where, we're on the heck map and we're trying to figure out, where we have to be in order to stealth or hit whatever we want to hit. Except we also have that the height. So I also love grappling into position to find my perfect sniper spot. So that's been a lot of fun playing the sniper. And then right at the end of my last couple of days of playing, I got Lucent Wand, and Neuro gave me some patterns for the prismatic gear, so I crafted some prismatic gear, and I think I'm going to end up trying to up my offense a little bit, because I'm only doing like 108 damage instead of minimum 126 with the bow. But that's kind of fun to just crafting the armor, trying to figure out what builds you want to, do I want offense? Do I want more healing? But I'm finding a lot of chest armor dropping, and we need 2 of those to craft. What is it? The armor essence, whatever that is. Is it essence? What is it?
Aspect
for,
of fortification,
aspect.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we need 2 of those, and I don't find a lot of chest pieces dropping, so I want to focus a little bit.
You can use full chest items too. You don't have to just use the what's it called? The salvage ones. Like if you've got a ton of solar surcoats, for example, you can just break those down and use them the same way.
Yeah, I'm not finding a lot, and I don't have a lot, so just finding them dropping, I haven't paid attention to what's dropping them. I don't know if those are coming more from chests or not.
Do we
But it's
know
kind
if
of fun.
there's...
Go ahead.
We talked a little bit already. Do we about chances of finding things and where to go and what to kill? Do we have real information about that, Neuro? You've spent a lot of time going out and hunting.
I would say there's probably something to be known about it. Like I said, I was finding the Boots of the Zephyr off of surface wisps like it was just candy being handed out. But the emitter is definitely a little bit more challenging. Sometimes you'll get them in chests. A lot of times I find those when I'm fighting just large groups of enemies down in the tier 4 or below. Not necessarily because I'm fighting a large group at the same time, just when you fight more stuff at once, you get through the loot a lot quicker. But I'm sure there's probably some amount of like loot table specificity, and this thing's got a higher chance of dropping this versus that. And I bet they probably really haven't worked into it that much. Dave himself said, and I was talking with him a little bit over the New Year's break there, that they actually didn't really balance any of the stuff going into this here. Let me change out the interface here. So in terms of the balance stuff, they didn't balance the weapons. They didn't balance the armor. They just put it out there because it's good enough to be able to play with, knowing that they've got, all of 2015 to balance it and get it ready or whatever they need to do. So that being said, yeah, all of the balancing of not only the equipment itself, but what drops what tier of stuff drops what, all of that, it's probably still just barely been scratched.
Yeah, I hunt a lot on level 4, so on layer 4, so it could be, and I get a lot of emitters, so that could be a spot for emitters. Now that you mentioned that.
So, Phantom X, how much of the getting into the caves and running around and fighting have you been able to do?
Some, not a whole lot, but enough to get a taste of it. It's still early, so I guess I shouldn't bitch too much, but I think I've talked to both of you, Sog and Diggs. It drives me nuts just having to. What other game do you have to go seek out? Can it be so difficult to actually find something to kill sometimes? I know that will all get balanced out as we go, but the other thing that's just been kind of hard is just the context. You usually have a reason to be doing some of this other than just, I guess right now, it's just to get gear, basically, which, funny, boils down to like every other game. But, so far, yeah, it's been promising. It's fun doing it. It just makes me want next more. But there's a whole lot of, the biggest thing for me right now is, especially when you're by yourself, is just trying to actually seek out and do some of this. It can be just very difficult. I used some of the tips. I think it was Dave mentioned the ore finder or something. I'll use that. That actually did help quite a bit. Instead of digging blindly for 20 minutes, I was able to find some things. But, that's the hardest part right now. So that's probably the primary reason now. If I'm by myself, I won't spend more than 30 minutes, and then I'll just, quite honestly, log back out. But
I strongly recommend trying a lantern build. Go with all 3 solar items, and then in this order, use the potion, the greater lightstone, and the lesser lightstone. Not only do you get a bit of a damage boost from the solar chest's special ability, but you also have a 75 light radius, which is basically like the beacon of God in the caves. You just light everywhere. It's awesome. Poro!
Hey, we have Poro.
Hey.
Welcome. How you doing?
Meh.
So we're talking a little bit about this idea of context, and one of the things that it's kind of the key to the difference between EverQuest Next and Landmark, where context for gameplay comes from. So we'll have a lot of the same mechanics shared between both games, but the reasons for doing things should feel very, very different. But in Landmark right now, I think for people that love exploring or have a collector mentality, these kinds of things, I think there's already a good foundation for drawing people in. First, I want to go around the table and say, from a Landmark perspective, what could improve the feeling given the way context is presented or lack of context is presented? And then for EverQuest Next, what kinds of feelings within the context of Norath will translate well, and what excites you about that? Or are you really just, I know some people are all about, I want to stick with Landmark, who cares about that? but I'd like to hear thoughts on that from everybody. Since Poro just got here, let's put her on the spot. Poro, what do you think?
I listened to that whole thing, and I honestly don't know where to start with it. Can you, like, condense slightly to, like, a more direct question?
Okay, direct question. What do you think could improve the lack of context in landmark exploring? The feeling that
There's,
you're
like,
just
no
doing it
background?
Well, right now you just do it to do it, right? If you go fight something in a cave because you want to go fight something in a cave, or you want to explore, or you want to collect. How do you think that could be expanded?
So you're saying there's no, like, overarching goal to doing those things, you just do it because you get some kind of intrinsic value out of it for yourself. But I don't really feel like there's a problem with it staying that way. Like, I'm actually wearing my Minecraft shirt. I realized, like, I just put a shirt on and then it happened. And I feel like a lot of people thought it was boring because there was no real goal, but I played it for hours and hours and hours, probably because there was no goal. So I don't really think that we need that. Like, we don't really have much lore for Landmark telling you need to do stuff. I'm hoping that there's just going to be enough player-created content that it's going to drive itself, and you're going to do stuff because you decide, like, oh, I want to build, and you're going to do that. And I know a lot of people like to mess around with the economy and stuff.
Noodlecat, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm kind of along the same line in the sense that I don't think we need lore or necessarily context in the sense of a story to go into caves or any other place, because later on when we get things like scripting, if we're going to be able to put mobs on claims and things like that, we'll have a reason to go down to the caves and go down to wherever we want to go to gather other things, and then player on economy put on top of that will also help with that, I think. But I don't even think, I can't think of anything that they could do to even give it context other than what they already have with that we're explorers from different realms or different planets or different whatever, and that's what we do to gather things. It feels more like gathering is like a separate part of the game itself. It's there because it's needed to be there, and it's fun, but it's not necessarily like an MMO, I guess. I don't know. I mean, even in MMO, you don't really go out to gather for a purpose. You know, I don't go herbing on my druid because of some storyline or anything. I just do it because I need the supplies.
I want to expand before passing the question off to the three other people here, I want to expand the idea of context too. Context can involve a progression scheme, not necessarily a fiction story context, but like you mentioned, a crafting and trading environment, this feeling of being part of a world. In RuneScape is a great example. That RuneScape thrived for years, but basically there's really no story, but there's immense progression that nobody ever completes, and there's a vibrant trading community, and people get involved in that, and it brings the world together. Diggs,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts
happening.
on context?
So for me, what I'm waiting for and hoping for is more focused searching for whatever items it is, recipes or whatever, so that we have a greater chance of finding fire keyworded items in a lava biome, or we have a greater chance of finding water related items with water keywords in an ice biome, so that it makes sense that I'm going someplace with some amount of purpose, versus just blah blah blah. I'll just pop around anywhere and hopefully at some point I'll get a bunch of stuff that I'm looking for. I'd like some more focused motivation for going to specific spots. But the other thing I'm kind of looking for too, that's kind of closer to story, like I've got the wand and we got the abomination. So with the Diggs character, I'm going forward with curing the abominations of their curing the land of the abominations, and stuff like that too. So hopefully we can do stuff with the mobs that will, we'll have a more variety of mobs, and we can craft some kind of story on our own around that stuff. But that's just adding variety to what we have around. But I'd like to see some collections. Oh, like I would love to have. I want Rosie, when she comes back from vacation, to start working on a lightning biome, magnetics, whatever. That's where we go to find stuff with the lightning keyword. Like, that just seems cool to me to have weather involved in that. And it doesn't have to be that's the only thing that we find there, but I'd like to have more of a chance to find that stuff there. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of context.
So geographical context in the sense of location, and that meaning more.
And kind of this, and the stuff that I'm looking for. Like, I'd like to have more of a chance of finding the stuff I'm specifically looking for, rather than just going out and bopping on anything and hoping, one of the 100 possibilities of drops is what I'm looking for. I'd like to be able to focus. I'm looking for the fire keyword stuff, so I'm gonna go to Lava Storm to find it, and hopefully I have a better chance of finding it there than anywhere else. But
and then there being some sense to where that is, instead of it just being part of the randomness of the world.
Yeah.
Like, well, I happen to drop into a lava biome on Adventure Lava Tube. Not, I went to Adventure Lava Tube because I know that it has a concentration of this. And I can be on board with that. Phantom X, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, let me be clear when I mention context. I'm not saying Sony needs to go out and create this big fan, storyline behind Land. That's not the purpose of Landmark. Ultimately, that's going to be the players that do that. And I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to switch over to Next. I'm not going to stick around in Landmark because, as I've always mentioned, I'm not a builder. But context for me in Landmark that will keep me is just, quite honestly, something we don't have, and that's the economy. That I do see, and like I said, I've talked with Diggs a lot about this, creating a trading guild for that purpose. That I would actually enjoy doing in Landmark, and that just doesn't exist yet. But even with that, there's a whole lot that goes with that I think could probably be its own show completely. But I'm not advocating that SOE needs to spend time creating a storyline for Landmark. That's the purpose of the players. But at the same time, so for someone who's not a content creator, other than playing other people's stuff, there should be some reason to go out and do some of these things. Otherwise, you just spend all. And maybe ultimately that's not. Maybe a person like me only logs into Landmark to play other people's creations. I don't know where that will end up, but as it is right now, for me right now, with Next being so far away, it's the economy that's missing. That would be a huge part for me.
Just touching on that a little bit. Hold on, because if we're going to have our trading spot, we have to build something or somehow get somebody to build something.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. That that's the other thing that drives me nuts about the game right now, is that in order to actually have a spot to trade, I have to be a builder or at least buy a building or somehow do upkeep with that. So in some ways it forces you, and I guess that's good, it forces you to be cooperative with other people. I mean, that's the whole point of it. But as it is right now, there's, for me to establish a guild to do this, the tools just aren't there yet. But and part to what like Diggs was saying, having direction as far as where to find things and not just randomly killing something to try to hopefully get this keyword that I want to be able, because we're low on them in the store, but that will all come with time. But that's what I meant for context. I'm not at all saying SOE needs to devote any time into creating a storyline for Landmark. That's the purpose of the players. So.
And Neuro, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I would say that ultimately we just need to let them put in all the systems that they already have planned and just haven't gotten in yet. I mean, achievements is one of them right off the bat. That would really help give things a lot of context, give us a reason to be doing a lot of the things that we're doing, and potentially reasons to keep doing them after we've completed them the first time for, whatever bonus or otherwise. Now, achievements can also be, they're planned to be tied to a lot of things, like being able to expand your voxel storage and a lot of other things. So potentially we could even see other things like upkeep reductions, and I'm sure that'd be a big thing for a lot of people. If you complete a certain achievement every month, you get half the cost on your upkeep. That people will come back and do that for sure. But that, of course, is specifically builder things in particular. Otherwise, if it's some sort of thing where you can, as a guild, do this achievement, like a group achievement, and it gives everybody a discount. I could see something like that. But just achievements alone. And then another thing that we haven't even gotten is really all the monsters. We don't even have all the monsters that they've shown us. And honestly, I'm pretty sure they're going to be giving us different tiers of monsters, different difficulties and different strengths and types of monsters as we go to the different depths. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, a tier 6 version of the same creature is going to be tougher than the surface version, but it's going to have more or less the same loot. It's just tougher because it's lower. That's going to go away. I don't think the idea is to have the same enemy, just a tougher version down below. I'm pretty sure they plan to have full diversity of the population and what we're going to be seeing down there. Phantom X, Mike. That's a couple of major things right there. Now beyond that, when there actually is exclusivity to discoverables, either you find an altar in the world and it's only around for 2 hours and you and everyone else can upgrade off of it and get things that you otherwise would never be able to access, or other sorts of exclusive discoverables, being able to get access to recipes or special items or something that maybe only 100 people get that recipe and then it stops dropping in the world. I could see the stuff that players are making, not only like we've done for the ruins, but potentially other stuff that players make for other competitions, being put throughout the world in different ways. So instead of coming to one of those large cavern systems that maybe has a couple of small ruins in it, instead we have a whole 3x3x3 massive mega cavern system that's been designed by players that you might come across, and it's fully machined out and has all this infrastructure built into it, and it's more of a mega ruins rather than basically what we have is almost more like micro ruins. So that stuff is going to be neat, because also as we get more of the stuff, you're not going to be finding the same 34 things every month, when we've got upwards of 1,000 things to find under the ground, and actually have interactability creatures that are designed to spawn and do actions at those locations and that sort of stuff. It's definitely going to further increase what there actually is to do, because then you have the thing of trying to go and find potentially these 1,000+ things out there and try to get into these encounters that have very specific situations to them.
I want to jump in real quick and say, on top of that, I really, really wish that linking and triggering had happened before this last update, or at this last before the ruins, because if people could have put that into the ruins, that would have just been that much more cooler. People are doing clocks and all kinds of crazy stuff with the limited linking and triggering we have already, and that would be ton more fun. Going into the ruins to explore that stuff.
I agree.
I wish there was a lot of stuff that we have now that we had many months ago.
Yeah. I would say one of the
reasons comes with the territory.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the linking triggering stuff they held off on because they still had the props not copying and pasting properly, and
They still don't.
yeah, and it's like if you can't even copy and paste a door and have it positioned in the same place, what the hell's linking and triggering going to do? How's that going to work? So I think that's one of the major reasons why they just couldn't, because it was a technical limitation. They hadn't committed the resources to figuring it out.
But they also needed a lot of optimization and for things like lights and other such things. Like if you have someone who has a not such a great computer, they walk in and then all these lights come on and all of these things trigger and do different things, It's better to get some of that optimization in first before they put that in. Though I would have loved it. Like a little blinking candy pathway.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet of a digital clock. I would love a linking trigger. That could be ongoing. That could be a functional clock.
Yeah.
With the right linking and triggering.
It's timed up.
Yeah.
13 switches is exactly 10 seconds, or at least it was close enough for Dave Jortson's ball drop ceremony. There's a lot of work that's already gone into making legit digital clocks in-game. I don't want to just start naming off people because I know I'm not going to get everybody, but people I have been hanging out with recently, aside from Dave Jortson and trying to steal his idea for a bowling alley, which I've gotten pretty close to so far, Metallical and Cold Knight are a couple of people I've been checking out their stuff. Cold Knight made an amazing elevator, and Metallical made an awesome people mover conveyor belt sort of thing. And that's not all they've done. There's so much technical stuff that those guys work, and they're not the only ones. There's amazing stuff going on with linking and triggering, and this is just the very beginning. This is like a lot of the stuff when I was talking with Dave, it's like as soon as we have conditionals, this stuff is going to be so much easier. It's like, we're going to have conditionals soon? Awesome. So
yeah, you mentioned the ruins. I just imagine if that had been there, like turning a corner and seeing this huge digital clock going 3, 2, 1, and you don't know what the hell's going to happen. Dynamite explodes, or just the possibilities that could come later. That part's exciting.
that's something the Joker would do. Just have something
I would
underground.
love that. That would be, and not knowing, something could blow up, you could fall through. I mean, eventually, round after round of monsters come at you. I mean, just the visual with kind of the oh shit moment.
We already have that with mushrooms.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, we're gonna be getting even
Those
more. I'm
stupid
sure.
mushrooms. You
I
see,
love
like
those.
they hide behind like other voxels and rocks and things. It's been quite a few occasions where I've run over one and just blown up. Though I do like
Listening
to actually
is-
just trigger them for no reason.
Listening is very important in this game. If you listen, you can orient
I'm
on
always
what's
on-
around you.
I'm always on TeamSpeak, and these are like noise-canceling monsters.
Come on, Diggs. We went out after last show, and a couple of us took a couple of mushrooms on.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I walk and I listen, so I know what's around me. But it's more difficult if you're playing with other people and talking and chatting and stuff.
I'm pretty sure Andorn died once or twice. So
I don't know. I keep the light of the sun on me at all times, so I can spot them pretty far away usually. That's one of the many advantages of the Uber Light Radius solar set. The one last thing I wanted to talk about, though, before I guess wrapping up and move on to the next subject, is that Minecraft, it really did hit on a very, I guess, necessary demographic at the right time and made something that was really amazing for a lot of people. The ability to make something where you just put down very simple blocks and have interactions, anything from you have a light and you move a colored glass block over it and now it's a colored light. Oh my goodness. That sort of stuff, very, very simple, but, able to be approached with ingenuity and intuition, you're able to actually make some really amazing stuff with it. A lot of people have learned about logic and programming through Redstone. They didn't know anything about programming. They never knew that they were interested in being a coder of any sort. And then all of a sudden they built this, gnarly battle tank or whatever that has cannons that, rotate and fire and stuff like that. It's like, wow, you mean I'm like doing almost like programming right now? That's awesome. Yeah, so that's one of the things that is really going to be keeping people coming to Landmark and coming back to check stuff out. Is just the idea that we're going to be able to make such dynamic, such immersive content beyond just the linking and triggering, but also the storytelling elements that will potentially be able to make really, really nice, well-crafted stories that, while it might not, in the context of Landmark, be like, oh, you've beat Landmark now that you've done these quests, but it's more that it gives, maybe you the idea, okay, I've done these quests, that's awesome. Now I have a quest that I want to create. So it's that constant, perpetual creativity, players making stuff that players access directly, as well as players making stuff that then gets put into the game and players access through the procedural generation in the world. But that, for me, is where it's at, is once we've got all of the features that they intend to have in, all the stuff that they've already talked about, we're going to be in great shape. And I think the whole context thing and people, knowing what there is to do in Landmark, or being able to find out what there is to do in Landmark when they sit down to play, is going to be a much faster and easier and fun and engaging process. It's people who are playing Minecraft, they'll find a server and jump on that because that's where it's set up with these rules and this game and this stuff. Well, we're not going to have to go onto a completely different server. You just go to a different claim and completely different rule set and context and games and such. So I have talked a lot about this subject. I think I've been talking for like 15 minutes, so I'm going to stop now.
Poro, you have anything to interject here?
I actually do. So I think the main problem here is that there's going to be so much cool stuff to do, and it's going to be amazing, and when new people come to the game and they see what people are creating, they're going to be like, oh my god, I can never do that, that's some kind of wizardry. And then if they actually do download the game, because it's going to be free, and they check it out, I'm afraid that there's not going to be enough of a smooth introduction to these things, and they're going to be really confused. Especially since we're going to have all this PvE content, you can like go and fight monsters, but you could also do all this other stuff. Seems like people might get confused as to what the game is even about, even aside from the whole EverQuest association. And that's, I guess I'm worried about that now.
It already happens. When I was at PAX this year, I was helping teach people about Landmark and stuff, and showing them things, and yeah, I had a lot of people ask me about it, and they had no idea what it was or what to do. They're just like, what? I'm just standing here. I don't know what I'm doing. But the little help thing with the little question mark that you click on, that's pretty good. But they do need, I think, a little bit more of a introduction,
well, I mean,
or just give everyone Google links at the beginning.
Because like eventually there's going to be
Slip in the
that
box.
cycle where builders feed into like what other people want them to build, and then the explorers feed into the builders, and everybody like becomes this nice little ecosystem that works together. Shut up. So once that's in place, I'm afraid people are not going to know how to become involved with it or what they want to do. And they're going to see a lot of ridiculous things that people are making, because we haven't even scratched the surface of that, I don't think. And they're going to be really confused about what we're even doing. And I don't really have a solution for what you would do. Like, if someone is interested in your game and they download it, and there's such a varied range of things they can get involved in, like, how do you kind of guide them? It almost reminds me of, like, how EverQuest Next is going to have the Row song, and it kind of, like, suggests a path. But with that, there's an actual story in that game, so it makes more sense.
I could see just in the login process a little thing that pops up and asks, what do you want to do today? And you can skip it, or you can click on it and get more information about the subject.
Yeah, poor. I agree. We actually. Sorry, Saga. I know you want to move on to the next topic. We had talked about that even when it was just building, just being able to find your place without direction. And you're right. You start adding in all of this other stuff. It's just a challenge.
Well, one thing I hadn't thought about is the dichotomy between what people are building on their claims and the type of mobs that are surrounding them. Because what if we want to make a sci-fi claim, but all the mobs around it are more fantasy? Like, and then how does a player just coming in know the context of that? Like, the surrounding stuff in the buffer is this, but then I walk a few steps more and I'm on this claim, and maybe there's some, completely random quest world thing going on that's totally not related to the surroundings. That could be disconcerting too.
Yeah, one of the things that I disagree that having more things to do and more things intertwined makes it harder for people to be integrated and find things to do. And I think one of the things is fits well into another topic that we wanted to talk about of what kinds of things would be needed to start boosting a player economy. And because that we're getting to a point now where having that part of the game is going to be very important to keeping things rolling, keeping things moving, testing for EverQuest Next, and building this kind of community. Because once this stuff is in, player groups will be recruiting other people. Player groups that are interested in doing things that require groups and our ongoing parts will be seeking out people to be working with and playing with. I don't see this environment being I'm in this exclusive group. There are only 25 people that could be on my raid team. I can't. We need to make our group so much better than everyone else, and we're looking to find people and show them what to do and teach them things and help them so that we can build our empire and our alliance of mini guilds that are popping up and create a dynamic trading environment. I know Phantom X has been talking about it quite a bit, and there are a couple things that you've said that are really missing for you right now.
Yeah,
and I'd like to hear what those are.
I mean, there's a lot, and some of it I assume they'll put in, some of it I don't know. A lot of it right now is organization, like the inventory, where to store things, how to easily get things, find what you need. That's one part. The other part is when you're forming a guild, how are they going to manage permissions for allowing people to take stuff, put stuff in, how exactly that will work. That part I don't know if they'll put in something to that level of detail or not. But right now the biggest barrier I think is just the storage, just being able to, aside from the fact we don't have any sort of coinage that actually gets traded amongst people. But beyond that, because that will be implemented soon, is just how you can just arrange everything to where it's an easily accessible, not just to you, but to everyone else that is in your guild that presumably will be trading with you. But then also, how do you set safeguards into not allowing someone to just essentially rob the guild, or are we going to have to live with that possibility? I hope not. Those are the biggest things right now. Aside from the fact that, again, I have to actually build something and have a plot of land to store anything beyond my own inventory, which drives me nuts too. But the biggest thing right now is just guild structure and inventory structure.
There's a good post about economy on forums which would help you, Phantom. That someone's recommended that you be able to rent out space once we have in-game coin for someone to use. Like, the builder rents out XYZ space for someone like you who likes to do economy stuff, so you don't have to build anything, and the builder still has a purpose as well, and a use to the other people.
That's a great idea. The only thing I would say to that is I assume that eventually the guild would also encompass builders, so someone would maintain that as part of their role within the guild. But for me right now,
I would have to buy. I don't think I would ever. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to trust someone to rent from them. They'd have to be like a stream host, or, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be dropping my stuff on some place that I'm technically renting from. I don't
Unless
think.
there's permissions that say you set an area, you rent it to this person, and you put their name on the builder list or whatever, not builder, but the permission list that we have, and once that's done, you can't touch their stuff, you can't tear down the claim, like it's published or whatever, to prevent, griefing back and forth that way.
I think I'd rather just purchase it than rent it, but that's me. Same idea. I'd rather purchase it outright than rent it, I think. But
So this concept of space and value of and land having value, what do we need in the game to make that happen? Neuro, what do you think?
For land to actually have value?
If we're going to be renting space, if this is an idea for boosting the economy, land has to have value. I don't feel like land has value. It would need to feel different for something like that to work.
The only way I could see land having a specific value is getting it close to the spire, because that's always prime location. It's good for advertising and showing stuff off, etc., having good interaction rates. If dynamic water is set up in such a way that you either can claim the land with the water generator on it, or just downstream of the generator so that you're basically the one in control of it, I could see that also being premium land. But other than that, it's really, really hard to say that one location should be worth more than another. I see rental as being something that we would basically need landlordism as something that players can do as a feature. We're getting loop back. Landlordism as a feature, basically allowing somebody to claim a large space of land, and they're taking a risk on it that they have to pay so much upkeep, but then they get to dole out parts of that land to other players. That seems like a large, annoying process that really has no place in the game and just promotes trolling. So I don't know what other plans they might have. Maybe there will be the ability to claim certain places underground or certain places on the Sky Islands once we start to see those. And at that point, maybe those will be more cherished locations. If you can get them, you keep them, and it has some extra kind of feature to it. But other than that, like, one mountain's just as good as another, one valley's just as good as another, desert's just about the same as the snow is just different trees and different plants.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah,
I think what's going to happen is it's not just going to be natural features that attract people to want to have a claim somewhere. There's going to be places that are more valuable because they're near something else that's really popular. Because you can find stuff on the gallery and teleport to it. People are going to be coming up with all kinds of games and attractions and stuff. And I think some of them are going to become monumentally popular, and anything around that is going to also be worth more.
I can see.
Yeah, I mean,
quality of player creations driving up the value of land around them being something that really happens. It was one of the ideas surrounding some of the city concepts that we drew up in Alpha, with saying that, if we can guarantee that we have all of these things together and all of the other things together, and that that if there's enough entertainment value to get people moving through, then adding economic pieces to it would be much easier. I keep bringing up RuneScape because the similar idea of being able to move your character between servers all the time. Like the server 001 in the original RuneScape was the trading server. Like if you found a rare item, you didn't try to sell it on your own server. You didn't try to do anything. You logged out of the game and you logged your character in to server 001 and you waited in a queue of thousands of people just to be allowed to get in, to try to spam global chat enough to get someone to buy your stuff. No, I don't want that. I think that's terrible, but there are some good parts of it, that there was enough of an economy that people wanted to cram in there. And that I could see something like that happening in Landmark in the future. That there could be that island where that's where you go. If you want to sell something, if you want to go to the best shops, like they are on that island.
We had some of that at the beginning of beta.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
My only argument against that is that we have fast travel, and with that, I mean, if there's some sort of instant teleporting, you're just going to look for the lowest price, unless there is no global way to see what prices are at that moment. In that case, if there's no way to know exactly what you're going to get or how much, unless you go physically there, I could see where being near somewhere populated would be beneficial. Because you're there, you're not going to waste time.
Dave said that there will be no global price viewing like that in a tweet just a couple weeks ago, or say for the same reason, saying that what ends up happening, that it leads to price fixing, and there really isn't this idea, the ability to buy low and sell high, and work as a middleman if you wanted. That he said that there will not be a global auction house type thing. It'll all be on claim vendors. So it's up to you. If you want to try to fix prices, you go try to fix prices.
I'm not saying like a global. I'm not saying a global auction house. I'm just saying a way to actually see. You still have to physically go. I actually like the idea of not having a global auction house. I mean, one, you're going to form better communities like that, but two, you're also that gives you the potential to actually develop a name for yourself as being a well-respected trader who trades low, but has fair prices, and people will seek you out.
I think one other part to think about, though, is if there's no set economy, there's no set price for such and such thing, that it should only cost about 10 gold for that specific item. If someone's charging 11, they're trying to screw you. If they're selling it for 9, you buy it and then go resell it immediately. I don't think it's going to be anything like that, or none of that will actually be an issue, because exclusivity of things isn't going to be kind of reflected on this global auction house. If an item somehow becomes twice as valuable, or twice as common rather than it was before, it's dropping twice as much, the price isn't going to suddenly deflate, and it's not going to leave a bunch of people economically strapped who had invested in it, because there is no real need to invest in something. The rate of that item's accessibility change, there's no way to know that one person or another is selling it for more or less. You just have to use the trade chat channels or whatever, and find that way. And that's going to be a bigger thing. I think trade chat channels going to be used a lot more than going to specific locations looking for deals.
People are already doing it. The other day in general chat, I saw someone trade 10 emitters for 3 essences or aspects of gathering. And I mean, people are already doing that stuff because it's so difficult to get something specific that you want at the present moment in time. But I hope at least that if someone has a shop that's set as a shop to buy from, that we can see that on the gallery, but not see their prices. Like, we can see that, Zog or Poro has a shop on this island on this server, and we can't see, you know, their prices versus someone else on another server. Because I personally hate the auction house stuff. It gets so boring, honestly. And it's a pain to manage.
I want a shopkeeper NPC that I can script to be sending out messages in trade chat, advertising my shop even when I'm offline. That's
so you want to be the gold seller?
That's all I'm asking for. That's all I want.
Here's the other thing is, when I think of economy, there's like maybe 3 things that I would want to be seeing traded in particular. Large volumes of material, because, you know, someone's a builder and someone needs a whole bunch of material, so they'll go out and buy it from people who harvest it. Some amount of props that only drop off enemies. If emitters, for example, only drop off enemies, I could see that being an economy item because you can't craft it. So that's the only way you're going to be able to get it. And I guess the third thing would actually be equipment that's meaningful. The default basic, you know, you just crafted an item and has the base stats sort of thing, those are going to be near worthless. I think it's when somebody's actually fully customized, fully fine-tuned one item or even an entire set of items, and they're looking to, you know, sell that. That's actually going to be something that people might actually want to go out of their way to try to find and try to get the best price on. And that's going to play a little bit into the flavor of the month build stuff. Like, if the Lucent one becomes the, you know, fan favorite and everybody's going for it, you can be sure that a fully upgraded one is going to sell for a higher price just because. Having too much fun in chat there, everybody. By the way, folks, I don't think we mentioned earlier, we've got Velix and Viz Gaming, Geo, handling the chat stuff there. We actually have enough people to have people in chat exclusively. It's awesome.
So I want to talk about one other little thing, or ask a question about one other thing that, you know, there is an idea of putting together the right build of items in the game, you know, seeking out certain things and trying to find a way to be able to play towards the play style you want. Does the lack of vertical progression restrict potential economic growth? Like the fact that things aren't necessarily more powerful all the time. I know it makes it harder, but is that a bad thing when we're thinking about economy? Diggs.
Well, I'm not an economy person. I don't really care about player economy. I usually do this stuff just because I think people are greedy and often go and check out prices. Like, I will not spend that money, that I will just do it myself. But with the with what I've seen with weapons, especially, one of the things that I think is happening right now with the PvE is that where people are only starting with swords, and lots of people aren't melee players. They would benefit better from having a bow, but they didn't craft a bow before this change. So I'm planning to. I have a bow crafted already that I'll probably give out, but that in the mindset of wanting to have items for newbies to hand out. So I think there are things. I mean, we're going to have a starter weapon. Starter weapons are level 1 or tier 1. They you know, are basic gear, and you're going to want to progress upwards to better gear. So progression will be in there, and I think there will be people who will be, you know, focusing on progression items, who they want to, and all of that. So I think it's going to be in there. It's just don't have a lot of items hand far.
Poro, in chat, or in on voice, let's see. You have a good idea. Come on, tell us about it. Elaborate.
So, alright, I think since this is a completely different kind of game from everything else, there's going to be so many more reasons why people want things other than just like, oh, the numbers are bigger. Like when I'm playing different games, I like to be the sneaky character a lot of the time, or sometimes I like to be the healing character. So there's so many things I want because it feeds into my persona at the time. And there are also, I think, things you're going to be able to use on your claims to just have fun. Like right now we're making the game tables and we can set up our own different like game modes and stuff, and that's going to expand a lot. And I'm sure there's going to be other things that I can't even really think of right now. But the point is, there's lots of different things to want for different reasons, because you're not just like doing PvE stuff. And I don't think it's going to be too hard to get people to really, really want that stuff and demand it either.
Yeah, I don't think the lack of I don't think vertical or horizontal progression in terms of economy, I don't think it matters either way. I think ultimately what matters to keep an economy going and not dragging down is how do you get those extra items out of the economy over time. That's the bigger issue, so that you don't...
Because they're not like being consumed.
You know, somehow it breaking or something, some way to prevent a constant buildup to where, a year from now there's a million different items and the prices are now going to be, incredibly low because everybody already has them.
Well,
and I don't think that's necessary, just in terms of economy.
I think that's the thing, though, is the base level version of an item when you craft it is going to be basically a junk item. It's like, yeah, it's a step up from a salvage item, but it's not really doing that much for you. It's when you actually put the time and effort to fully upgrading it, fully specifying what you want it to do, giving it that extra keyword, giving it that extra damage imbue. So your sword now does physical and fire, so you can use your sword viably for a fire-based build. And then likewise, you've upgraded your armor to really max out what that fire does, and maybe it has extra synergy with radiance. So you kind of have a three keyword build going. That's the sort of stuff I think is really going to be more I don't want to use the word end game for equipment, but that's what's going to make a piece of equipment actually worthwhile and actually meaningful versus something that someone just crafted or just dropped off an enemy, is all the upgrades and fancy stuff that goes into it. Now, I think that's another reason that mobs are actually going to start mattering is right now we only have one version of all the weapons. When we actually have more features to them, more keywords, more customization, more enchantments and enhancements, have like a classic ARPG style, like a Diablo style inventory system where it's the blank item of blank whenever you find it off an enemy or potentially has those modifiers, then the default item you craft kind of becomes an interesting thing because it's a blank slate that doesn't have anything, and you can upgrade it as you want, but you have to put all the time and effort to upgrade it all the way, versus you can find items off of enemies that are potentially in a more upgraded state, but they aren't necessarily for your build, so you would maybe go and sell that or upgrade it the rest of the way and then sell it.
And I'm just talking about economy. Just when you don't have a vertical progression where in 6 months to a year from now you have to get new gear just because the stats go up. There has to be a way to pull some of that out, pull out some of the coin so that you just don't get inflation over time. That's all I'm saying. That customization is great, but give enough people enough time, there will be enormous amounts of customized gear. There just has to be some sort of way. If you're not going to have, because that's how WoW works. I mean, you have a new expansion, and now all of a sudden, instead of 200,000 hit points, I can have 500,000 hit points and do 10 times as much deep. That's how they get rid of their weapons. That's how their economy keeps moving along.
But it doesn't have to be more powerful gear. It can be different kinds of gear. I mean, my favorite set right now is the solar gear, just because it's so different from. I mean, it's not really a power stat. I mean, or it gives us power in a odd way, and that's what I'm hoping more to see, is the things that are creatively different, not necessarily more powerful. And if you give me something that's different enough, I'm gonna go for the different stuff. It might not be more powerful, but that's the power of horizontal progression versus vertical progression. It doesn't have to be vertical.
So, do we want permanent item loss, however it's done? And if so, how would you want it to work? Noodle Cat.
I mean, like, you have something for so long and then it just goes poof.
There are lots of different ways it could work. We know there won't be in combat breakage. We've been told that already.
Not by usage.
permanent-
Not by usage. So it could
Yeah,
be
not by
death.
use.
It could be
Yeah.
by death. That hasn't been ruled out yet.
There are lots of different ways that the system works. Some are just timed.
I don't usually like things that where I lose something that I put a lot of hard work into or something that I really love because I like transmog and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I'd really want something that I'd lose the item permanently. I mean, it is a little weird with horizontal progression that you will have, kind of a buildup of items because on the other hand, you can't just have, a small amount of things such as armor because then there's no use for them after a while as far as economy goes because then everyone has them. But I don't know. I know everyone hates WoW, but I really like the transmog system in WoW because it did give a use to old items. And a lot of the old items are actually more expensive than the new items, they're from this expansion because people like the look of this one or look of that one. So I like that, but I'm not sure how you'd fit in something where you lose the item over time. Because I'd be pretty bummed if I lost something that I worked really hard for.
I don't think an item should be lost over time. I think a better way to do it is kind of combining like a repair upgrade system like, say, Ultima Online had, where when an item's damaged, you repair it, and depending on the skill or the quality and stuff, it can potentially be made more powerful than it was before, or it could get knocked down a notch, but still be, about as good as it was. But now taking a little bit further on top of that, having it, let's say I'm using a Radiant chest piece and it's damaged and I need to repair it before I can use it again. I would need to use maybe any chest salvage item or any Radiant salvage item to restore it up to a point, but I would need to use both a Radiant item and a chest item or another Radiant chest item that I have, like a Solar Surcoat or whatever, and just burn that for the process of restoring my equipment. That way it gets items, even complete items, out of the mix, out of the world, because it's much easier to repair your equipment with parts from stuff that you've already got rather than having to make things to repair it with or get into your, cheaper, hopefully more stackable salvage stuff. I really hope the salvage stuff gets stackable, by the way. That's just taking up way too much space in my bags.
Please. or you could use essences or aspects.
Yeah, there you go. That would make sense, actually. And potentially being able to throw more resources at it to see if you improve it in the process of an upgrade. That could be another feature of it. But yeah, that's Sog, I guess, did we hear from everybody on this?
We have not heard
I was
from
waiting for Poro.
This.
So, if I could try to frame this so everybody agrees what we're talking about. The problem is if items don't eventually degrade or disappear, then everybody will have the same items, and since there's no vertical progression, if everybody has the bow, then everybody can do that, and then there's no demand for it anymore, and then the whole economy dies. Is that what's going on right now?
I think that's the idea from
yes.
a trader crafter perspective.
Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of economy stuff, because I just assumed, if there's enough sinks for different resources, then that's not going to happen, but maybe I'm wrong. It would seem out of place to have weapon durability in this game, I'll just say that.
The question was, do you think there should be sinks for fully formed items?
So you have to kind of maintain them, you can't just, have them. I was
Or
thinking about that's why I said,
they-
I think durability would be strange. if you get it, but now you have to do something else and pay more to like keep using it. I don't know. I don't really like that in Landmark, but I don't have a better solution either. So
I loved. I talk about IKEA all the time. I know it's a mud, but the same number of people play it now as played it 10 years ago. So that's a positive thing for any video game. Forging in IKEA is 100% random number generator. Every weapon has 3 stats: a damage stat, like an accuracy. It's called 2-hit, but an accuracy stat and a speed stat. And every weapon that's crafted has a timed durability. It's not use based. There's a lifespan on every forged item. So when people forge awesome items, they're always sought after. Always. And they only last for so long, and people are always looking for a better one. And it's worked, and it's worked for a long time. So I know that we have this thought of a weapon being more than just a tool for a number, but also having an artistic and stylistic element to it as well. And the collectors love to have things and keep things. And I understand that it's different in a graphic environment, but when things are kept that simple, for a small set, having items go away forever and having variable quality for the same item, I think that's the other key. And we know that there will be, from the things that Dave has said, that there will be a random factor in the crafting of items. So we haven't seen a lot of that yet. So I think that'll have more to do with it. So we may be making a whole lot of stuff that nobody really wants, but occasionally we make something awesome. The question is, will that awesome thing last forever? I personally hope that they don't last forever in Landmark or in EQ Next. I like the idea of any system where if you're at the top, you've got to work to stay at the top. Not like I've got statistically the least probable, most awesome weapon that could ever be made, and now I have that forever, whether I ever play this game or not. I'm not too interested in. We had one question that we have not touched. If anyone else has questions, please put them in chat. The one question we have was also to do with crafting, and it was from Stoneglade saying, do you think we will have to craft NPCs, and do we think there will be a variety of them, examples being soldiers and shopkeepers? Noodlecat, what do you think?
I don't know about crafting people. It seems a little weird. just as a concept, but I do see. You know, they've already said we're going to be able to script NPCs and things like that. So I'd imagine we probably maybe would get to make them like you do in Sims or something. I have no idea. It'd be kind of cool to be able to do that. I don't know if people would be a very good resource sink though. Like actually crafting them. It's like, what do I like go kill that dog over there to get some bones to make a person? I don't know how that would work.
Maybe we'll need essences. They'll be like spirits or souls or something like that.
Steal the souls of other players.
Well, I mean, that could be one of the
NPC.
one of the resources we start getting off of mobs is like you kill slugs and you get flesh off of them or something. You get brains, and you get other parts, and you use stuff like that to make your NPCs.
Frankenstein
work.
shopkeeper.
Yeah, you know,
Maybe you can just get
Yeah,
animating spirit stuff.
Yeah, I'd rather an essence that's like a soul, but I would expect us to be able to use character create sliders to, you know, create the look of the NPCs, and then we'll have Storybricks AI tools to help us design the AI, and then we'll have to craft weapons and armor to put on them. I mean, equip them with. So I think there's going to be some form of creating NPCs. Crafting is a little out of a word, but yeah.
Yeah, I would like that idea. That would be neat, especially with the Storybricks. I mean, I can imagine a scenario if you have like a trading guild set up or something that also has an element of like gambling to it, where okay, you can buy it for 20 gold pieces, or we can play a little game here and you can maybe get it for a little less, or you have to pay more. You know, some sort of way to introduce other kinds of stuff into just a simple buy sell.
I want it to be a situational, contextual byproduct of building. I want NPCs to appear because people are coming to your claim, or because things are going on your claim. I want NPCs to move there. I want them to show up. I want one day for there to be an NPC on my claim that then I could potentially customize, but because I hit a certain variables got to the right thing, not necessarily even quantifiable, but could even change based on the surrounding. But this NPC wants to live on my claim, and then I would need to, keep providing the NPC with something to keep them there. I don't like NPCs as a different shaped box with scripted intelligence. I want NPCs to feel like they have an AI outside of what I tell them to be, and moving there is just a part of that.
With Storybricks, they should.
The designers can choose to put them in a variety of different ways, I'm sure.
It sounds to me like the difference between us designing NPCs and what Zog seems to be talking about are NPCs that are already out in the world that would then come onto the claim versus us designing. I mean, because that's pre-designed AI going in. That's pre-designed AI reacting to things that Zog would be doing on his claim, is what it sounds like to me.
I guess it's a way
Cool to
of
have both.
Having the ability to then customize them would be nice. I understand that dungeon creation tools, you need to be able to put monsters in there and stuff. But the idea of needing to earn an entity living there instead of, clicking a craft button. It's just one mechanism for the creation.
Part of what I'm asking in trying to ask is about this vision is, where are these NPCs coming from?
I
Like,
would
how are
love
they
if
showing
there
up?
were if they were out and about. I would love if you
Right,
could just
right,
wander
that's what I'm
past
saying, yeah.
someone and talk to them. I think that would be pretty cool. You could interact with an NPC that may or may not have its own agenda. It doesn't even have to have a whole lot of story to it, but this NPC wandering the world sees that you are carrying a pick and happens to also be looking for gems and decides to come with you on that, and then follows you back to your claim. These are all things that make sense in a Storybricks AI situation. But going out to meet NPCs and invite them to come to your claim, or having things about your claim that just say that attract NPCs to come there, I think would be, it may not fit with having all user-generated content on a claim, and I understand that, but I think it would be a neat mechanism.
It sounds to me more like EQ Next, that will have, NPCs that have been let out into the world, and they could be coming to us for all kinds of reasons. I haven't imagined NPCs wandering around in the open world, just general NPCs, but that could be interesting if they are.
They could definitely do that. And another thing I'm thinking now is the ability in your the non-claimable area around a claim that you've placed. If that entire area could be set as potential free roaming patrol area or whatever for the NPC. So basically all of that non-claimable space is stuff that they can potentially go to the edges of. And for people to actually be able to have a war, basically you claim 2 spots that are close enough that the non-claimable is overlapping, and then you deploy your NPCs at each other essentially, and see watch the battle outside while you eat tea and crackers.
I think a mix of both would be good. Basic NPCs to craft, and then I liked the idea that someone had in chat where the museum islands could have the NPCs because they actually fit into that world, because they're things that cities built or little areas that are actually kind of part of EQN, kind of part of Landmark. It would make sense for them to live there, and you can go and talk to them, kind of like you do in WoW, where you hire your garrison people. There's certain ones in the world that if you talk to them, all of a sudden they show up in your garrison, and they're just walking around, and it's pretty cool. But I think maybe a little bit of both would be good, because it would, to me, seem a little weird to have random people walking around in the middle of the open, but it would also be really neat to have, NPC wars or something like that.
Well, actually, another reason I could see free roaming NPCs out in the open world, and this is kind of going back to something we were talking about earlier, is to help give context to things. You see somebody that's not a player, maybe there's something that indicates that they're not a player. It's like, oh, they're being attacked by something. Well, crap, I'm gonna run up and help them. Or, oh, hey, maybe they've got some cool thing or something, or maybe some interesting message. Or you could be attacked by something and be in trouble, and they come up and help you, or even revive you if it's like your first 10 hours playing the game or something, and you died on the surface, and one of these NPCs comes by. I could definitely see that sort of stuff being used to kind of add more interest and intrigue to the game.
It'd be like special NPCs that you could get.
Yeah. Well, not even ones that we own, just ones that are just generated by the game.
But it would be nice to expand on that if we could do if we could entice certain types of NPCs to populate the areas, steampunk or sci-fi or whatever. Through our interaction, we can make the area around our claims closer to the theme that we're aiming at. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that could be done if we have access to NPCs walking around. So, I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but that could be cool. We should tweet it.
I want to put stuff out in the unclaimable side of my stuff that I can attract monsters to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be neat, and we've talked about in EQ Next this idea of feeling like you're part of a group of people when really you're just surrounded by NPCs. That you're surrounded by a like-minded group of people working together. Now, wouldn't it be neat if in Landmark there were like-minded NPCs?
NPCs, yes.
Not necessarily that claimed land and built, but there were mining and surviving NPCs out there that were non-combatant necessarily, or maybe you could rob them in the future, or.
I wonder if they could pull from the. I wonder if they could pull from the H1Z1 AI, where like when the bears or the wolves get hungry, they go and hunt the deer. There's not just a static wolf that walks in a circle and sees you and goes after you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
they actually do things.
I'm pretty sure Storybricks actually does that and more. I think what we see in
and
H1Z1
more,
is
yeah.
actually like a stripped down version of Storybricks that's meant for server efficiency and mass hordes versus. I don't think we're going to see the same sort of mass hordes, but the intelligence of things, I think it is going to be a lot of what we see in H1Z1, but then even more advanced than that. That's what I'm hoping. Because, it is definitely awesome in H1Z1.
I think you need to talk to, the devs about that, Zog. It's a great concept. I think I haven't heard anybody bring that up.
We have one person listening who actually seems to have listened. And thank you very much for being here, Emily. We happy to have you all the time. Anytime, you're more than welcome, as is everyone else. So thanks everybody who showed up. Sorry we didn't make it here last week. Do we want to give a couple more minutes for questions? We don't have anything specific, or just go around the table and say Happy New Year and good night.
I guess the one thing for me is just a round table. What's the coolest thing you've seen with linking and triggering, or understand is currently possible with linking and triggering? I guess we'll go...
The clock.
Yeah.
I'll just say the clock. That's all I know. Yeah, I'll just say the clock. That's all I know.
Yeah, that same here. Some of the digital. Yeah.
I haven't seen much of this stuff myself. I was there for Dave's stream when he did the countdown thing. But since it's kind of similar to Redstone, I guess, couldn't somebody make like a computer with enough time and effort, or some kind of thing that does calculations?
Yeah. Somebody apparently designed an AND gate with 13 spinners.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the digital clock I'd mentioned earlier was the coolest thing I'd seen. As just something to play around with, that I think that's awesome. And there's not really a limit to potential, is there? As long as there's space, and as long as you're willing to back up really, 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 really far to see the cool things happening.
I think the conveyor belt was pretty cool.
Yeah. Conveyor belt's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, that's pretty technically amazing. Yeah.
So I think we're coming to the end. For the people who didn't know, Poro and Diggs and Noodlecat are going to be part of our regular rotation on the show now. We wanted to make sure we got all three of them on here at the same time, and we're going to be back to having guests on starting next week. We're kind of out of guests lined up currently, so if you're someone who would like to be on the show, reach out on Twitter, and we would love to have you guys come join us and join in our conversation. I think we've had a great show tonight, so I'm going to start off saying goodbye. I'm Sog. Thank you all. Good to see all of you again. And let's head around the table. Noodle, go ahead.
Well, I'm the Noodlecat. You can find me in Landmark once again. I've actually am back to building and back to doing stuff quite a bit, so you can friend me in game and all that kind of stuff. And hope to see you guys. And if you ever want help with building, or if you're a newbie and don't know what you're doing, come find me.
Very cool. And I am Legendary Neurotoxin. You're on my channel here. I do a lot of stuff on here. A lot of Landmark shows, a little bit H1Z1, some other stuff here and there. Yeah, and to make sure that we don't accidentally forget him, once more we have Mr. Viz Gaming, Giovanni down there, and Velux handling the chat stuff for us today. Very, very awesome. Really appreciate it. And it's almost like a first for us, because we've never had like so many people to, it's like, all right, we got to have 2 people manning chat. So it's really awesome that you guys we're able to keep things held down. And honestly, I've seen a bunch of green swords. I probably mod too many people, so I don't think it was a problem either way with the moderating. But great to have you guys, and everybody else out there. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you all had a great New Year. Poro, over to you.
I had a lot of fun with you guys today. So thanks everybody for coming. And I guess you're gonna see more of me soon, so don't be too sad, everyone.
I guess is it my turn
and
now?
according to Commerest, I was great at keeping the chat on topic, so I'm not without virtue.
Yeah, for me, nothing really new. I have the same name in game, so if you're there and you see me on, chat me up if you want. I am very much interested in actually a trading guild once we have the tools to do so. So if anyone else has that interest, seriously do let me know. And,
Actually, I
will...
guess, Noodle, maybe that means that we need your help building a guild home.
I'm willing
Since
to help
Phantom
with
says
stuff,
he can't do that by himself, so we should talk about that. You done, Phantom?
Yep, on to you, Dig.
Cool. I'm Diggs. You can find me in the forums mostly, but I'm doing some PvE in the game, hopefully right after we're done with the show. Happy New Year.
Awesome that. All right, well then, that means we are at the end of the show here. I'm going to bring up the slide and wrap things up, but before we do that, we're going to bring this party over to another channel. So everybody, we'll see you all over on Chris' channel, and have a good one. I will see you all over there, and see y'all later.